I've been shooting archery for about 16 or 17 years and really seriously about 10 years. And then competitively from that, this is now my fifth year shooting competitively and third year shooting national competitive events. And then now global events, honestly. And then, so there's actually three of us. There's Cody Hassan from Nixa, Missouri. Jeremiah Jones is from Carl Junction, and I flew with Jeremiah here. It's one of those things that you want to do at least once in every sport. If your sport has a global competition like a World Championships, or if they have a Pan Am Games, or if they have the Olympics, which obviously, Olympic year, it's a really big deal. You see how much media coverage there is. So for a non-Olympic sport, compound archery, it's kind of like our version of the Olympics is like the World Championships, and several Olympic documentaries they talk about. The next level down from the Olympics is their World Championships. They get to see where they fare against the other shooters. So this tournament's held twice. I think it's called biannually, but it's every other year. This tournament's held every other year, and they hosted all kinds of different places. So it's been in Canada, it's been in Italy. 2 years ago it was in Italy, and they've had it in now Slovenia. This is, I think, their second or third time returning. So it's a pretty big deal, I think, as for USA Archery, because it's the only tournament that USA is sending a world team to at this moment. And then there's another World Cup here in I want to say in the next month or so that they're sending another team to. So yeah, it's pretty cool to be on the team, represent, and get the jerseys and the the merch and things. It's really awesome. So archery is split up into your like male and female divisions, and then within each of those halves there is you have compound archery, and you have so many subcategories of compound archery. There's an open setup, which is like mine. It's however you can hit the middle. You just any equipment is allowed. And then there is the fixed pins category, which is you can't move your sight. So you have to instinctively be able to gap and know how far the target is from there, and then know how to shoot it. And then there's that's a little bit about compound, and then recurve archery. There's bare bow recurve, which is an Olympic bow with no equipment on it. They're just an arrow and a bow. And that's it. And then Olympic recurve, obviously, that's what we see in the Olympics, and that's what we see some shooters like Brady Ellison shooting from the U.S., and that gets a lot of media coverage. But then some that don't is traditional archery, and they deserve a lot of credit for what they do, because those bows are actually all wood, and sometimes they're a three-piece wood design, and then other times they're a one-piece design. So it's literally just like natives used to use to hunt and collect meat and things like that. So they're shooting cedar arrows, and they're shooting um, cedar arrows, wood bow, and they're really, really good for what they're given to do. They're shooting the middle a lot. And then they also have longbow, which is just like a recurve, but instead of it having curves in it to store more energy whenever you pull it back, it's just a stick and a string, and it's very, very basic. It's actually the most basic form of archery. So the longbow archery deserve a lot of respect for how good they can get with such equipment that is nothing like what we would shoot in compound. And we have all kinds of modern technology put into the compounds. There's electronics, um, there's pulleys and wheels on them, and there's some of them have UV lights, and some of them have sensors on them that actually detect how hard you're pulling on the bow, so that you're more consistent that way. And it has a computer chip in there that it detects the amount that the riser of the bow flexes as you pull it back and as you're holding it back to aim. So if you're pulling a little bit harder, it'll let you know, and if you're pulling it a little bit less, it'll let you know. So and a little bit about World Archery is different organizations. There is the National Field Archery Association. There is the ASA organization, and they are 3D archery. And then there's World Archery. There's USA Archery. USA Archery falls under World Archery, where the rules for compounds for me are obviously there's a long list of rules, but those rules for compounds are there's okay, so the rules for compound are 60-pound draw weight max. Your arrow can be a 9.3 millimeter diameter max, and your arrow points, I believe it's 9.5 millimeter max diameter. I'm not too sure. They don't make them out of spec for a 9.3 arrow. And then the no electronics on the bow and no electronics on your person. So it's all kind of taken back a few years so that there's no advantage from someone in that equipment category who may be able to have a rangefinder or may be able to have things like that. And I think they just want to keep it more competitive and based on skill versus the technology advances that your bow may have. And then those three organizations, or four organizations, there's also different types of archery they shoot. So there's indoor archery, and then there's outdoor archery, and then there's 3D archery. And 3D archery is like animal targets in the woods. And with 3D archery, you may shoot it with a rangefinder where you know the distance, or you may shoot it without a rangefinder and you don't know the distance. And in outdoor archery, you have field archery, you have outdoor target, and those two are a little bit different. So outdoor target is a lot like indoor, which I'll explain in a minute. But outdoor target, you stand at one distance, and it's pretty much out of 72 arrows, how many points can you rack up? So out of a possible, say, 900 or 600 points, some people can shoot 900 or 600 points, and at that point, they'd have a shoot off. For who wins or who is placed first place in the elimination brackets and things like that. And then field archery is just like outdoor archery, but then the targets are at different distances from, say, 10, 15 feet all the way out to 80 yards. So then your equipment has to be spot on where you aim. You have to really know your bow and know the ballistics of whenever you aim up and downhill, you have to cut yardage. And so that adds a little bit more technicalities to, how complicated it is to understand the sport of archery. And then you also have indoor archery, which is the biggest, what was I going to say? You have indoor archery, which is the biggest type of archery. Indoor archery is kind of where the outdoor people and then the 3D people from the summertime, they all kind of come together in the wintertime because you can't really shoot outside anywhere in the world. And they will all shoot for these tournaments that you can win, I mean, up to $200,000 at some of these indoor archery tournaments, and they're everywhere. I mean, anybody who shoots outdoor competitively almost has to shoot indoor because because you're stuck to being inside. So indoor archery is my personal favorite, and that's a lot like a science experiment because you're at 20 yards and you're shooting at a single target and everybody's target's the same size, and it's pretty much don't miss. Don't drop any points at all because the skill and talent level is so high that you actually get placed, you get ranked based on tiebreakers, and those tiebreakers will rank you for a shoot off that in which case it's everybody stand again just like we were, and the last person standing to not miss is the champion, the winner. This tournament here is a world archery tournament, so it falls under those rules of the 60-pound weight limit max for me and no electronics and the 9.3 arrows. So I had to build a little bit of a different bow setup to come to this one. And it's also judging yardage because you can't use a rangefinder. And on top of that, you can't use equipment to help range find. So there might be some sort of gapping technique with let's say like a plastic gauge that you can hold out there and look and then see kind of based on that how far the target is. There's none of that allowed. It's all line of sight, or you can use the ground in front of you to help you judge the target. And we'll come here and we shoot 2 days of qualification, and each day has 24 targets that we shoot 2 arrows at. And then after that qualification, they'll take the best archers from a lot of teams, a lot of countries, and they'll take their top, let's say, male compound, male recurve, male barebow recurve, and then male longbow, and that'll be a mixed team. And then you guys will all as a team shoot against all those other teams. And then they may have a compound team, which is a compound men and women. And then those two will be put together, and those two will shoot against the other compound teams. And then same thing with all the other categories. So there's definitely a lot more of this tournament to be shot. The biggest part is just making the top 16 and then, out competing your fellow Americans or your fellow Italians or your fellow Germans. I mean, it's really cool though, being here at the hotel and, everybody speaks a different language, but, we're all here for the same thing, and the camaraderie here is amazing. So in the US, I spent a ton of time. This year, I went through an equipment change. I signed a new contract with a new bow company. So back in June, I had to, kind of refigure out how this certain bow, this actually a Matthews, likes to behave for, or I guess I'll re-say that. I went through an equipment change this June that I had to kind of refigure out how my new bow, which is a Matthews, would compare to my Elite and the way that it behaves, the way that it shoots, the way it likes to aim. I mean, every aspect about it. And then coming over to Slovenia, then you're thrown a whole bunch of obstacles because the grass here is a little bit smaller. Like the blades of grass being smaller, whenever I'm judging, something looks a lot further than it really is because the grass where it's at is a lot smaller than what it is here at home. The trees are smaller for the most part. And then also the targets are a lot smaller. So sometimes I might look at something and think that is probably near 45 or 50 meters, and it's not. It's like 30, 35. So that took a good bit of adjustment at the very beginning. And then there's, a sleep schedule change. So whenever I got done with 32-ish hours of travel, I got here and all I wanted to do was eat and then go to sleep. And then I stayed awake as long as I could. And then I fell asleep at, I think, 7 o'clock, and I did not wake up till the next morning at, I think we woke up at 5:30 or 6. So it was a good bit of sleep. And then I got right on schedule. And that part's been great because last time I went to Europe was in February, I want to think. And that was I went to France to Nimes for a World Indoor Series indoor tournament, and I got no sleep. I went there and I took a nap. That was the biggest thing. I took one nap on the first day, and because I was exhausted, and the reason why I took the nap is because France closed, like the whole country's closed for like an hour for lunchtime, and so we got there and the hotel was closed, and it's like, well, we have nothing else to do because we just ate, and then we took a nap and then woke back up, and then I felt great after the nap, but then I couldn't sleep all that night. And then I went to bed at, 6 or 7 in the morning and then got back up at 8 in the morning to go shoot all day. And then, couldn't fall back asleep all the next day. And then, went to bed at 6 a.m. And the whole thing was all week. So I got like 5 or 6 hours of sleep the 7 days I was there. But here in Slovenia, I made sure to learn from that mistake to really establish a sleep schedule first and foremost. And another issue that I encountered is not only is it your sleep, it's also your eating. So your eating schedule will kind of be at a different time zone than your sleeping schedule. So that was definitely an interesting thing. I woke up the first morning and I was not hungry at all because it's, midnight back at home whenever it's 7 a.m. here when breakfast started. So the eating and the sleeping was a big adjustment. The targets and then the target sizes was a big adjustment. And yeah, and then also it's a bit of an elevation change here too. So in in Slovenia here, I think it told me the town was between 900 and it's like 300 to 900 meters, and we're probably closer to the 900 side because when I got here, the ballistics of my bow changed. My arrows flew a lot flatter and they flew a lot faster for longer. So I had to change a little bit about that, and then I had to make sure that my equipment passed inspection, which is always a nervous and kind of focal point in your tournament because you may practice and get your bow ready and everything, and then you do equipment inspection right before you go out to shoot, and then you have to change something and you don't get any time to adjust it because that's your own fault. So they do equipment inspection after all the practice days and after everything. And then, but yeah, so I passed through everything, went just fine. And I was really glad that nothing was an issue. So got over here, that happened. And then our first day of qualifications was today. And for the first half of that, I kind of struggled with judging the targets. Right now, at the end of qualification, I believe I'm finished. I'm placed in 10th going into tomorrow. So it's a lot like golf where you'll have several days of qualification, and after all those days, they'll group you with people who are similar to your score or your rank. And then so that's kind of like our final day on like a Sunday at a golf tournament where we are grouped and we'll shoot with people that we shot with or that we may not have shot with. So they're going to be similar to the score that you shot the day before. So it may be really, really good and it may be really, really bad because sometimes that it's bad, everybody's arrows are in the bullseye, and then you might hit their arrows and it'll glance you out into a lower scoring ring. And then so that's another adjustment that I'm going to have to get used to tomorrow and take advantage of shooting first. Although whenever you're shooting first, you don't get to listen to other arrows beforehand to get a good gauge on, okay, that sounded like it was 30 to 40 yards or, 36 to whatever meters it may be. But yeah, it's a lot of adjustment, and the AC, there's no AC in the hotel. And the AC is in Europe, they turn off the AC this time of year. And it's actually kind of nice though because we get to keep the door open all the time. My door is open on the balcony and the wind's blowing all the way through the room and the door's open to the hallway. I don't know if you can hear people coming by and chatting and whatnot, but yeah, it's really cool and I'm glad that the air here is a lot less allergies for me because I get really bad allergies where we're from and ragweed is really bad right now. So I got here and I felt great. So yeah, just judging perspective and things like that were the biggest adjustments to make. For one, it's a world medal. Any kind of world title goes is or any kind of world title is heavily weighted in contracts for for manufacturers and for sponsorships in the future. So I may not win any money here at the World Championships, but then in the future I have that to my resume and I have um, that title to my name, and it would mean a lot to me, honestly, that knowing that it was something that I was in a foreign environment and something that I had to persevere through, and then shoot my best and do my best. And it's definitely a tough task to ask for to do that, and it comes with a lot of stress at times too, because you may be working on something or like working on your bow and keeping it maintained. It's a lot like a race car, how you use it and then you have to fix it, and then you use it and then you have to fix it or adjust it at least. So I do a lot of that, and then sometimes it's like man, I need to get this done and get this figured out, but then other times I'm like, man, I really know I'm capable of this. I really know that I'm doing good, and it's really relieving those times. So when I think about what it would mean to do really well and at least medal, if not win, I know that there'd be so many people proud because a lot of people had to pitch in for sponsorship to come to here because this is a fully self-funded event. I didn't mention that before, that we have to we have to commit to the event and then get our funds in order and then pay like a one time or like a one single fee from the time that we land here to the time that we take off. Everything's taken care of for us: our hotel, our meals, our transportation, and everything like that. So it wouldn't just be to me and my family, it's like to a lot of other people. And I've had several companies that have pitched in and helped sponsor me to get here. And to them, I think the coolest part would be the jerseys. So we get a certain amount of jerseys, and if you win, some of the biggest sponsors of yours, they'll get a jersey or a signed jersey, signed hats and pictures and things like that. And yeah, I think just the biggest part is the connections in the industry as well as what the goal at hand is. I mean, it's a really big deal, and it's kind of something that I've been doing for a couple years, going to tournaments. I'm one of the first professional athletes, I believe, to come from Republic High School. So that's something that I kind of think about, that's pretty cool to just be traveling the world and shooting a bow all the time. And that's really what I do. It's all I'm into. It's, I wake up, I shoot, go to school, go to work, maybe shoot, and then shoot more and then go to sleep, hopefully, and then shoot. And it's I dream about it. But oh, I kind of lost my train of thought. What it would mean. I forgot what I was saying before I talked about shooting a bunch. But anyways, hmm, dang it, it'll come to me, I think. The sponsors, it was self-funded, and then something else.
No, you're fine. Let me do this.
um,
Is there anything that you would like to add that I did not ask about?
mm, yeah, I were actually I'm an archery coach actually at the Springfield Archery Complex down towards Nixa, and we're part of the Springfield Green County Park Board, and we do all kinds of lessons. So if anybody wants to come out and get a lesson with me, get a lesson with my other coworkers, get a lesson with my other coworkers, and it's a really cool program they actually run down there. And if you guys want to come check it out, it's one of the only ones in the country like it. So yeah, the archery complex called the Springfield Archery Complex.